The national parks of northern Canada protect more than our environment. They protect our heritage. In the Torngat Mountains of Labrador, the Inuit are reclaiming a lost homeland. And in Nunavut, scientists are uncovering the history of the planet's climate in the glaciers of Quttinirpaaq National Park. Rising from the shores of northern Labrador is Torngat Mountains National Park. Established in 2005, this huge expanse of wilderness is one of Canada's youngest parks.
There are a few ways to get around the park. Basically, you're restricted to air or water or foot.
It's just amazing how long it'll take us to get somewhere. And I look on a map and I think, oh, that won't take long to do that hike or to get over there. And it's just so vast, this area, and that's really blown me away here.
Torngat is as hard to reach as it is to navigate. On average, only a dozen people visit the park each year. But those that do come are treated to a landscape unlike any other. This is the south end of the Arctic Cordillera, a long chain of mountain ranges stretching from Labrador to Nunavut. The Cordillera's icy coastline is punctuated by deep fjords, carved out by retreating ice caps at the end of the last ice age. Today, 40 glaciers remain in the park, the only ones in mainland Canada east of the Rocky Mountains.
They're really special places and they're a really important part of Torngat Mountains National Park. And I think even the people who live here and regard this as their homeland have always made observations about the glaciers.
As the climate warms, these glaciers have started to disappear.
In the last couple of decades, the ice front has receded about 100 or so meters. We think from the records there may be over 75, 80 small glaciers in the park, and we need to do a sort of inventory and work out how healthy are they, and are some of them still there, because some of these inventories that were done back in the 60s, they may have melted completely since then.
between the mountains are wide open valleys that shelter plant life. Trees can't grow this far north, but sedge and grass are in abundance. In the summer, the land is carpeted with green meadows and fields of wildflowers. In the interior, on a sunny day, temperatures can get as high as 20 degrees Celsius. Torngat Mountains National Park is one of the few places on Earth where a variety of geological features can be seen in a single landscape. It's an environment that's rich in wildlife.
The waters are full of life, seals and whales and the caribou on the land and the bears.
Torngat is an Inuktitut word meaning place of spirits. One of those spirits was Tungasuk, who watched over Inuit hunters in the form of a polar bear. There are many legends of Tungasuk, but above all, he was master of whales and seals in Labrador. Polar bears are the most feared animals in the park.
Polar bears is quite a threat. They're known to be quite territorial and very, very dangerous. You know, you really do need a polar bear monitor with you in these parts. Black bears is also fairly dangerous. Like, you know, they got cubs. You get them cornered there, get between their cubs and that. They're not as dangerous. They don't seem to be as dangerous as polar bears, but they really need to be respected too.
Armed guards are always on hand for safety.
But one of the things we learned early, or I learned early when I came to Nain, is that the safest way to travel on the land is to travel with people who know the land and grew up here. And they know the dangers and the risks because they've lived with them and dealt with them all their lives. Nobody travels in the park or in the vicinity of the camp here without a polar bear monitor or a bear monitor, because we have both black bears and polar bears resident in the park and also around base camp here.
But bears aren't the only danger lurking in the Torngat Mountains. Torngat Mountains National Park is home to some of the highest peaks on the East Coast, and the best way to see them is from the air. But getting up here is not without risk.
But flying in the Torngat Mountains is not for the young, unseasoned pilot. The winds and the weather and just the topography here create special challenges for pilots and for airplanes and helicopters.
Weather here is erratic. Sudden blasts of Arctic air called ghost winds descend on the park without warning. As they roll down from the mountaintops, the temperature can drop dramatically within minutes. Out on the coast, the Labrador Current cools down the park. The bays and fjords help provide refuge from the cold. For centuries, the Inuit called this land their home.
It wouldn't be just tourists here. It would be Inuit because we're on Inuit land. And you can imagine the kayaks out in the bay, children out playing around, children on the beach, and men coming back, and the women all happy to see the men come back with the food.
But all that changed in 1959, when the government of Newfoundland shut down the village of Hebron.
When the province came in, it was their policy to try to get Inuit into southern places because they found it too expensive to operate up this way and to offer services.
"58 families were forced to leave the only home they had ever known.
There were no consultations with our parents, grandparents, we were just told we had to go.
Because of that, there's no Inuit living in the park anymore.
Now, over half a century later, the Inuit are returning home to manage the land and reconnect with their heritage.
Whether they're tour guides or whether they become researchers themselves. but it's an opportunity, an economic opportunity that is there for a long time to come. It's because it will not go away.
The creation of the park really gives me a comfort level that this is going to be a park that's for Inuit, for the rest of Canada, that this is where people are going to come and learn about my culture. They're going to come and learn about how Inuit lived and how Inuit do live.
"2,500 kilometers north of the Torngat Mountains, scientists are uncovering a different kind of history. High in the Arctic, at the very tip of Ellesmere Island, is Quttinirpaaq National Park. It's as far north as you can go in Canada, less than 800 kilometers from the North Pole. The Inuit call it the top of the world.
You're miles from nowhere. You're in one of the prettiest parts of Canada, and hardly anyone ever gets to see it, so we're very, very fortunate.
At 37,000 square kilometers, Kutinirpaaq is the second largest park in Canada, and it contains some truly unique landscapes.
There are deep fjords, beautiful glacier fields, ice shelves, incredible lakes, even solar heated lakes. Amazing lakes that are seen nowhere else in North America.
But getting here can be a challenge.
So it's extremely remote. It's not easy to get to. It's weather dependent in terms of getting here.
Well, of course, this is a tough place to work. Being so remote from the rest of the world, it's probably the hardest to get into and the hardest to work from.
The park is open from May to August. Visiting in the winter is strongly discouraged.
We're in the high Arctic. Winters are very long and dark, and certainly traveling and conditions would be quite difficult in the winter. Imagine it being 40 below and pitch dark.
the only way in is by chartered flight.
This park receives relatively few visitors. People don't realize that they can come here and there's a place that they can plan a trip and do a unique hike.
Kutinir Park is dominated by glaciers, the remains of massive ice caps that once spanned the whole continent.
On the tops of all these mountains are ice caps. Some of them are quite large and some of them are rather small. And they're of great interest to scientists all over the world. So these little ice caps, or big depending on how you look at it, are remnants of one of the last great ice ages about 50,000 years ago.
Climate change is threatening these lone survivors.
Well, in fact, when we look at some of the computer models, they tell us that it is the most northern latitudes of the northern hemisphere that are likely to experience the most dramatic climate change.
The damage has already begun.
Lakes that have never lost their ice cover in the past are now open water. The permafrost, the surface frozen ground is losing that freezing capacity and is becoming thawed deeper and deeper. And many lakes that were in the past were dammed by ice are just collapsing. The ice dams are falling apart and the water is draining out into the sea. Yeah, so clearly at that rate of loss, it's not too long before you lose all that ice along that northern coastline.
Thanks to the national park system, the heritage of the Arctic Cordillera will be preserved well into the future.
There's an area in our homeland that's going to be protected forever. You can go and do and practice your traditional activities for food purposes, go hunting there, go fishing there, and take what you need. And that will be there for you.
Parks Canada's mandate is to protect and preserve these areas. It's for Canadians' use and enjoyment. Well, it's not only for your use and enjoyment, but for future generations. It's not just for you, but it's for you to have a sense of discovery, but we want your kids and your grandkids to have that same sense of discovery.